Hey everybody, Bob Adams here. Welcome to our presentation this evening on January 17, 2023. This is our first one of the year. We will be doing more and a planned schedule, and I'll be talking about that a little bit later. But for now, let's get this thing going. As usual, our disclaimer. All information, discussions regarding the Iraqi dinar, events, taxes, and plans for educational and entertainment purposes only are general in nature and not intended as investment, legal, or tax advice. Each person's personal and financial situation is unique and different, and the information provided may not apply or work effectively for you. Effective and established financial tax planning needs to be done by you with licensed professionals of your choosing. By signing up for and attending or participating in our information internet or in-person workshops, seminars, and follow-up meetings, you agree that MaxPlans for Life, Inc. and all affiliate companies, representatives, associates, and employees, information providers, are hereby held harmless from all liability and loss associated with the information, discussions provided, and as to any action or strategy you may choose to implement with regard to the same. There, now the attorneys are happy. All right, so I'm going to jump right in. Like I said, we're going to talk about taxes for a little bit. We've had all kinds of scares when this election was going on and the potentiality of a massive wave coming through here and changing all of our tax stuff. Well, that didn't happen. There are some changes, but quite frankly, they just aren't that many for us to be afraid of, and some of them are even beneficial. So I'm just going to do a real quick review of what these are. First of all, the federal tax brackets and the tax rates. Now, in the U.S., we use 7 federal tax brackets, and their marginal rates at 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, and 37%. This has not changed. Now, earlier, we hit as high as 39, and back in the Jimmy days, they were clear as high as 60, 70, and 80, 90%. So they really haven't changed as far as the brackets are concerned. However, they did change the adjustments to the income thresholds. So it is substantially different. So this means that some folks may be able to stay in lower tax brackets who receive the cost of living raise may avoid paying portion of their income pushed for the higher bracket. For example, in 2023, a married couple filing jointly can maximize at $89,450 to remain in the 12,000% bracket, and compared to $83,550. But when you get up to the 37,000%, what used to be clear up in the $580,000 is now $400,000. So the more you make, if you stay low, you're fine. Like I keep telling everybody, you want to stay below that 400,000 mark. You've heard me say it a million times. The standard deduction got changed. Each year, the taxpayers can either itemize their tax returns or take the standard deduction to lower their taxable income. For 2023 tax year, the standard deduction will increase by $900 for single filers, which would equivalent out to $1,800 for married, $1,400 for heads of household. Now, the standard deduction is also $1,500 higher for those over 65. Yay, I got some reason for being happy about that. And it's up from $1,400 in 2022 and $1,850 higher if also unmarried and not a surviving spouse, up to $1,750 in 2022. Capital gains. I realize it doesn't make any difference as far as we are concerned with the IQD because it's going to be treated as ordinary income. But the capital gains tax is something that you need to be aware of. Now, I know the cryptocurrency world is sitting on its ear at the moment. I don't expect it's going to stay there. It's too deeply embedded in all of the progress and technology that's gone on, and we will see the majority of the altcoins just simply disappear. But I think the primary ones, the layer 1 levels, are still going to be around. Those are subject to capital gains taxes. And as I've told you before in the previous stuff, if you keep the income down, you can actually make about $80-some-odd thousand if you're married and pay no taxes on it, as long as you have a long term, which means you have to hold it for at least 1 year. So taxes are generally assessed on the profits or capital gains generated by the sale of an asset, such as the share of stock or cryptocurrencies. Short-term gains are taxed as ordinary income, which we already know that, and while long-term gains are charged either 0, 15, or 20% based on the filing status and taxable income. For 2023, the IRS also increased the income thresholds for the long-term gains. Now, I'm not going to go over those because they're pretty much close to what they were last year. So what else can we see for 2023? Well, the annual exclusion. This is important for us. I only picked the ones that were most important. which limits us from how much money we can give to an individual before having to file a gift tax return. Now, last year, it went to $16,000 per person. This year, it's at $17,000 per person. So that's an increase of $1,000 from what it's always been in the past, and that's good news for us. That's good news for us. The lifetime estate exclusive, establishes also. In the past, we've had when Trump came into play, it bolstered it from $7 million before you had to lose anything in the way of a estate tax calculation. It went to 12. Well, guess what? Now it's all the way up to almost 13 million per person, okay, which equivalates out to 26 million for married filing jointly. Now that's up. We know that they've been wanting to take it down. They're not pushing it because it's already set to sunset on 2025. It'll drop back down to about 5 to 7 million, somewhere along that line. But for now, this is still really good for us. Okay. And then IRA contributions also got increased by $500 this year. So the contribution you can make if you're under 50 is now $6,500 and $7,500 for those of us who are over 50. Other than that, not much has changed. It really hasn't had any, we expected the possibility that there would be some massive swings of the pendulum in the tax arena. Didn't happen. It didn't happen. So that's all good news for us. So now I'm going to take you through real quickly the IQD review. And like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time this evening, probably another 15 minutes. It's not going to be much. Okay, first of all, refresher. The IQD is the currency of Iraq. We know that, which, by the way, the new one came out in 2003. So we are at our 20-year mark. It was created during the war in 2003 to 2011. It replaced the previous currency that once held a value of $3.75. Now, I think we need to review that for just a moment. That was an inflated price that was brought into play by Saddam. It wasn't a justifiable and reality price. It was, it's all being managed by the government and primarily by the CBI. It's considered to be under a managed float with a little change in the value for the last 2 decades. Okay, the current value is about, a seventh of it's small for us at this point in time. The CBI, which is often stated the goal is to return to the value of the previous levels, in recent years they stated they could support $1.17. Now that's got a little bit of a variable to it, as we know that we went through the pandemic. We know that we had the price fall on oil. But we also know that they've also been returning, and in light of the fact that the war that's going on with Russia and Ukraine and all of the stipulations not allowing Russia to be able to move their oil out, Iraq is starting to get a lot of attention coming its direction in order to secure new contracts for Europe. That's good news for us. Now, the value's been retained thus far in the strategy to complete its infrastructure and economy before revaluating. And so we, as private holders of this currency, were considered speculators anticipating a gain from this revaluation. A reminder, this is not tradable on the Forex. It's not even usable here in the United States. Now, if you went overseas and went to Iraq or other countries in that surrounding area, it would have applicability. But for us, we're just holders. That's part of the reason why it's being treated as an ordinary income instead of a long-term capital gains. So here's a couple things regarding the taxation of the IQD. We all know it's ordinary income. I'm not going to sing that song much longer. Now, the taxes due will be calculated by your personal tax bracket. I just got through discussing about that just a few minutes ago, and the marital status at the time of the exchange of your IQD. This becomes a taxable event. The tax bracket's percentage did not change from Trump, okay, but the amounts to be taxed did. So the minimum taxation IQD should range from 37%, that's the federal only, up to a possible 13% depending on your state of residence. That 13 is calculated on California. There can be other taxes applied if you exchange more than $1 million in any given year. Now, I talked about this in some of the previous presentations to understand that they have these other hidden little sub tax things that if you hit the $1 million mark in 1 year, there's an additional 3% tax they want to impose. Now, when you get to this point, you're going to want to have a conversation with your tax professional and make sure that you prepare for this appropriately. This is important. You need to just be aware of it. Any funds or properties you acquire could be exposed to estate taxes on your passing, which right now we know is already up there now where it was before, with that $13 million. And determining a plan before our revaluation could save millions. Guys, I've been singing this song now for how long? You know, it's just simply the truth. Having everything ready so that you can put this thing aside and say, I'm done. Here we go. So I created this IQD decision tree, and I've showed it to you before. I like it because it makes it a little easier to understand. So we're going to talk about that again this evening. So there's considerations to be, before applying the decision tree, and it would look like this. Number one, how much IQD do you have? If you got less than $2 million, then your options are really quite limited. How old are you? Now, I've been in this thing going on to the 16th year at this point in time, and it's, and I'm not a youngster anymore, even though I may sound like it. I'm not, okay? So you may not qualify for some of the strategies because you're too old or possibly even too young. Can you qualify for a Roth? Age, income, rollovers, those are all going to be considerations which we'll talk about. And then would a CRUT be something that would be of great value? You guys have heard me sing this song about the CRUT a gazillion times. I still believe it's one of the best options that we have available. Now, let's talk for a little bit about IQD that's held in your hold less than $2 million, and the primary thing we're going to look at is the freedom tax. So during the past 20 years, we've had the opportunity to secure our IQD notes based on the belief in the anticipated revaluation, the funds that we've had available to secure it, and the desires to meet. Now, Tony's talked about this. I've talked about this. Have an objective. Why are you doing this? What is your purpose for having this particular investment? Why do we tell you this? Because it takes the fear and the greed out of the picture, which is the biggest intrusion into all of your investment strategies at all. So at this point in time, we've secured an amount that meets these parameters. If you have less than $2 million, like I said, you'll be very limited. You may consider looking at your desires to be accomplished by the exchange, house, debts, charity, family, etc. Obviously, seek professional help before you do the exchanging. Exchange small amounts. I showed you those percentages a little bit ago to reduce your tax exposure, and consider purchasing large items like a house or a car on time, and exchange only what you need for the down payment and to meet your tax obligations. You could potentially invest those funds to meet your payments. And then remember, when you exchange the IQD for USD, you have created a taxable event, and you are obliged to pay taxes to federal and potentially state authorities. For those who have more than $2 million, my other toy that I love to talk about is the Roth. Okay? It's the one and only way that we know to be able to get a tax-free return off of this particular investment. Now, most likely you're going to want to exchange some when it shows up. Seriously, how many of us are going to celebrate when this thing comes to fruition and go exchange at least some of it as a reward? I know I am. Remember, anytime you exchange it outside of the tax-reducing options, you're obligated to pay those taxes again. You may want to have the opportunity to exchange your IQD in a completely tax-free environment called the Roth. There are considerations. Your age, too young, be frustrating because you got to wait forever to get to 59 and a half. Too old, that required 5-year waiting period is going to be too much. Income or rollover, your income, your income to roll over to a Roth, you have to have active income or be self-employed, and it has caps, meaning if you make too much money, you cannot put it directly into the Roth, but you can still create an IRA, then roll it over to the Roth. This is called a backdoor IRA. Now, this was one of the things that the Democrats absolutely put their foot down and says, no, we're not going to allow this anymore. Well, guess what? They didn't get it. So for 2023, we still have the ability to do a backdoor Roth, meaning you create the IRA first because you've made too much money, and you roll it over into the Roth. Also, there's two types of Roths. We've got the precious metal Roth, which is by far the easiest and maintained with the less IRS compliance problems, and then the one-member LLC Roth, which is a little more complex, and it does expose you to some of the IRS issues. No held IQD that you've got, you cannot put directly into a Roth. The Roth must own it. It has to purchase it to show the ownership. So for a precious metal Roth, you establish the account with a custodial service, and we have 6 of them. Contact an IQD dealer and arrange the purchase. Remember, you're limited to $6,500 or $7,500 per year, depending on your age. You send the funds for the purchase of the IQD to the custodial service first. Then you have the IQD dealer send the invoice to the custodial service. The custodial service pays the invoice. The dealer sends the IQD notes to a vaulting service for storage until the revaluation. This is required. You cannot have it in hand. You pay the custodial fee, about $250 a year, and the vaulting service is $300 a year. And you can add more IQD each year, okay, within the allowed caps of your income. Now, the cool part is it doesn't cost you any more as far as the charge for the custodial or for the vaulting service. It's going to stay exactly the same. Whether you've got $1 million or $100 million, it's going to cost the same. Now, for the one-member LLC, it's a little more complex. You have to locate a Roth custodial service that offers the one-member LLCs. You create an agreement for management of the funds being in your hands. You create an LLC to manage the funds and operate it. You potentially may create a C corporation, okay, and that's a little more inside that for the UBIT. That's something you'll talk about your accountant professional with. You create a bank account for the LLC. You send the funds to the custodial to the purchase IQD. The funds then go back into your LLC bank account, and you purchase the IQD. Now, for those of you who've been around, you know that we have on our website the buy-sell IQD spot. It's there for a reason. You guys who have this one-member LLC option can buy IQD there. You don't have to get it from a dealer. The precious metal has to get it from the dealer. They don't have a choice. Okay? You secure the notes in an accepted location, preferably not at your residence. I'd still use the vaulting service simply because it's so much easier to do the exchange. And then one of the advantages is you can put other things into this particular one, like crypto and real estate, in the one-member Roth. Now, the greatest disadvantage of the one-member is the potentiality of violating the IRS compliance. If you make a boo-boo, you lose it all. Our favorite, the CRUT. So if you don't qualify or you don't want to wait on the Roth, the CRUT is a great alternative. It also works in hand with the Roth. So the CRUT is an irrevocable trust. It's created either fully depreciated capital gains or assets like the IQD to put into them, and they're managed for a period of time by a trustee, which is you, with payments going to the beneficiary, which is you, for life or a limited time if you're under the age of 59 and a half, or under the age of 40, I apologize, until the passing of the beneficiary. Now the remaining funds are then released to a selected 501c3, including the potential private foundations. Now you know you've heard me sing that song about creating your own private foundation, so that when the period of time, either the 20 years and or upon the passing of you, those funds would be released to your own private 501c3 private foundation, and your family would still be managing it. You know, it's one of the cool things about this whole investment that we're involved in. The potentiality to have a very nice windfall out of it opens the door for a lot of really great things to be done for many generations. The CRUT is populated, that's the funds being put into it, with your exchanged IQD. It does not go in as IQD, it goes in as dollars, but you have to exchange it. Now, there's no time constraints, not like a Roth or waiting period, be so old, blah, blah, blah. Nope. And you get paid either monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annually. Now, the CRUT can also use an annuity to manage those funds, and it can offer a guaranteed lifetime income, potential death benefits paid to your heirs, potential long-term health care benefits, and the funds in the CRUT can be invested in many ways, not just into an annuity. You can spread it out over other things as well. And the CRUT can handle additional contributions, which is why we chose the CRUT. There are other types of charitable unit trusts out there. We chose the CRUT intentionally simply because you can add more to it. And there are charitable write-offs available for the type of contribution, depending on what it is. Now, capital gains, they get a big write-off on Schedule A when you put it into the CRUT. Our ordinary income, it don't. Funds in the CRUT are not included in your estate. This is also part of your estate planning. Now, the process for creating it, it's really quite simple. The document preparation. The average cost is about $5,000. Currently, MaxPlans offering it for $2,500. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. For our IQD investments, since we do not know what the revalue notes are going to be held in a free or controlled vote, the time to take advantage of the value could be critical. So creating the documents before the revaluation, it could be very, very critical. Signing the documents, securing an EIN. After the RV, you locate a bank that does the CRUTs. Almost any bank will do a CRUT. Open the bank account in the name of the CRUT. Now, you exchange the IQD. Now, if the bank that you're working with does not do foreign exchanges, that's fine. That's the other reason why I like using the vaulting service, because they'll do the exchange on your behalf. So it's got security, it's got exchange services, it makes life much easier. You invest the funds into the CRUT and then the bank. Now, when you do this, I can promise you the bank, they love it when they got people with money. They're going to come on to you and say, hey, let's have a conversation here. And they're going to want to share a lot of different things and options. I would encourage you to listen to what they have to say. Now, remember, you're getting paid 5% that's coming out of this thing. And if they've got an investment that creates more than 5% annually, pretty steadily, take a look. Just take a look. It might just be a really cool answer. There's other standard investments that have acceptable options as well. And then always, obviously, I encourage you to consider an annuity. Then consider an annuity with all these other options and seek professional assistance to report the required documents to the IRS. So every year, you file a tax return on the CRUT. Okay? And that's prepared by a professional that in the state that you reside. So here's the conclusion. All right? This is kind of interesting. MaxPlans, it was created in a way to assess other IQD with legal ways to reduce, defer, and eliminate potential taxes on our investment. Same three things I've been saying now for 7 years. The primary taxes we're exposed to are estate taxes, which is the biggest one of all. Income taxes, remember keeping it down below that 39%, as much as you can. State income and estate and inheritance taxes. And the options that we're offering would include the gifting assignments. Remember I showed you that we got the ability to be able to give away up to $17,000 this year per person. So if you're married, 17 times 2, 34. So that's $34,000 you can give away before you have to file a gifting tax return. That's pretty dang cool. The Roth for tax-free gains, and obviously the CRUT. And then you have access to our website, and you have a free 30-minute appointment with me. Guys, I love these appointments. I do, because it gives me the opportunity to share and to learn, and we learn from each other. Now, I have some updates that I need to put out on the table so that you become aware of them. Number one, MaxPlan was created to share the things that I did preparing for the RV. I had the blessing of working with some really great professionals in creating my CRUT, my Roth, all my plans, my gifting assignments, all those things that you get, I got. Okay, and I've been working with them for years. I also had the ability to continue to work with these professionals as time went on with any kind of changes that were going on. Now, I created MaxPlans in conjunction with attorney David Stephenson. We needed a legal source to be able to take sure that we can get all the documents correct. And it's been a lot of work. And like I said, I've been really blessed to have shared all this with you, but I never intended it to be an ongoing business. I honestly thought it would be over with by now. And that's why I never included an ongoing expense for our members. Now, the cost to keep MaxPlans going has gone up. And so I have to change some of the things that we have for our costs. So effective February 1st, which is about 2 weeks away, the cost for the CRUT is going to go up to $3,000 instead of $2,500. The cost for software, maintenance, and everything else that we're doing is gone up, and it's what we have to do. And the full package is going to go up to $35,000, which is only that $500 increase in the CRUT. Now, if you intend to add the CRUT, or if you're intending to do the full package, now's the time. Okay? I will send out email reminders to everybody as the time counts down. I want to show you that it's also right here on the website. You can see the countdown under the Join Me part, or Join Here. So it's there as a reminder that the time is coming. I also want to talk to you about the buying and selling of IQD as a benefit to our our members. So posting your IQD and other currencies is free. I've had so many people say, well, how much are you going to charge? I don't charge for it. Now, if you go to eBay, they charge 15%. Okay? Or however, other places you can get that done. Obviously, if you try to sell your IQD to a dealer, you're going to take a 30% hit. No way around it. So the reason why we even opened this door so people could do this is so that we could not have that expense problem. So you can purchase these currencies for a better price than you can from the dealers, and you can include these currencies in your one-member LLC self-directed Roth. You cannot use it in the precious metal. The precious metal must buy it from a licensed dealer. However, by selling your IQD here for a price that's close to what they're going to charge you, relieves that great big 30% hit. And so I encourage you, come take a look and see. So there's people that are always trying to sell it on there. We've got some substantial ones. We've got some small ones. It's just available. And this is what it looks like. It explains how it works. And then here's the sources of people that are trying to sell, okay, or buy. It's all available right there. Excuse me. And it's simple to add to your holdings. Some people just do it because they want to get more IQD at a decent price. And you can always negotiate, with people. It's up to you, entirely up to you. You just got to remember, here's some things. Okay, number one, I don't charge anything to post the information. You are responsible for the sale and the mailing of your currencies. I'm not in the middle of it. Suggested way to handle it is to have the prospective purchaser wire the funds back to your bank and then mail it. Send it by mail. I mean, that's what I learned from the dealers and from everybody else. Just send it by mail. Don't worry about it. So just send it by mail with a return thing and you're all done. If you do sell some of your IQD or other currencies and you have a gain, that's a reportable gain. And that goes on Schedule 1 under Other Income. Okay? So quick recap. We're still offering the same 3 tools, gifting assignments. If you want to join just for that, it's $100. The Roth, $500. The CRUT is $2,500 for now. It's going to go to $3,000 at the end of the month, and the full package is $3,000 or $3,500 at the end of the month. You still get that free 30-minute conversation with me. Just make an appointment, which isn't very difficult to do. Okay, and it looks like this. Get your appointment with Bob. Just that easy. All right, so the price of the CRUT is going to be increasing, and you can contact me to sell your currencies on the website. We'll be doing webinars. Tony and I will be doing webinars every 2 months. The next one is going to be on March 14th. All right, so you can go and register for that on the website now under webinars for that time frame that's coming up. Now, don't worry. I'm going to send you a link for all this stuff. So just be aware that it's there. All right, if anything exciting happens between that time, obviously, we'll send the notice out to everybody and say, this is it. All right, so what we're going to do now is a little bit different. I'm going to have Tony come on board. I know that he's been talking a lot, and we've had some really great responses to the podcasting that we've been doing, the show that we've been putting on. But now's our opportunity to get caught up on all kinds of different things. So, Tony, would you come on board, please?
Can you hear me, Bob?
Yep, you're right there, and you're perfect. And it's no buzz noise. It sounds really good. Okay, so before we get started, guys, before we jump into this thing, I know there's a lot of stuff that's going on out there in the world. A lot of people are afraid because that comes with any kind of a threat to what we would consider to be stability. And so we're going to talk about those this evening and trying to give you an idea where things are really at. The primary thing is to get you to realize you don't need to be afraid. Okay? All right. Tony, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Bob. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a question in an email that a gentleman sent me. And let me set my phone up here real quick because I had to get to my digits where I can unmute myself and get back to the Wall Street Journal article that came out that people had been sending me. So, in question, you guys, Iraq. I keep talking about what I'm watching, what Iraq is watching. What position? How are they posturing? How are they looking at the globe financially to help them make the decision when they're going to add value to the currency? Because they will, and they are. They're going to. All right? They've stated it over and over again. It's no more. It's never been a debate, by the way. It's always been strange. In fact, when we first got into this, and I started reporting on it, there was, more of a buzz coming out of Iraq when they're going to add value than there is today. But today they're in a better position to do it. So it's kind of strange. They don't talk too much about it, but they still do. Not as much. It's kind of I will tell you this though, you guys, without throwing darts at anybody, Iraq is and has been talking about adding value to the currency more than they have in the past. The problem is the people that would report this in the dinar community, either they've been thrown in jail or they've, for whatever reason they quit because it wasn't a get-rich-quick scheme or whatever. So that old school reporting that used to be there, people used to go through the articles of like that, I wouldn't call it a infrastructure or anything like that because it was all just a bunch of people involved with it. But that's why you're not seeing as much information coming out of Iraq. It's because of, that people just got out of it. You have these crazy women that out there or whoever, that their logic was they thought that God was listening to their prayers and, it's like, well, I hope this thing revalues because I want to be able to bless all my family members and all. And somehow that was to provoke God to do his. Those people have left. They're gone. All right, so now it's just logic and how normal people make money. And by the way, I'm a believer, so it's not a jab at believers. But sooner or later, responsibility falls in our lap for our decision making and all that stuff. You have to have patience. So here we go. All right, Iraq. Let me read this question for you, Tony. How are you looking at Iraq? And you keep talking about how Iraq is looking at both sides. I don't know what that means. In the past, in my mind, you're the master of the big picture, formulating a view, as you call it. Can you please help me understand? Sure. And it actually ties with what's going on with Iraq. Or, I'm sorry, Ukraine. All right? So think about this, guys. Think about the United States from this term, from this perspective. The United States, the only countries we've ever gotten a war with are dictatorships. Every single country we've gotten a war has been a dictatorship. Japan, Germany, Vietnam, the countries that we're in a proxy war with have always been dictatorships. Every single one of them. So what, it should, that right there should be a key to understanding what the sides are in this worldview. So what are we fighting against? What's China? The Belt and Road Initiative, right? They're trying to expand their markets. Well, what's the difference? And so I get this when teaching geopolitics all the time. It's like, well, China's expanding their markets. We're expanding our markets. Yeah, well, we're not a dictatorship. You might hate, every 4 years or 8 years the president that's in it, but guess what? They were voted in. So the thing about it is that, that's what these guys are looking at. They're looking at, if you look at from, since Putin got into office, all right, so what did he do? He won the Chechnya War. He won the Georgian War. He won the war in Ukraine, which he took Crimea in 2014. He won the war when he was involved in Syria. So that's what people are looking at. They're like, my God, it's the multipolar world, this dictatorship. They're creating a alternate reality outside of democracy, and they've won all their last wars. They're winning. And so that's what makes the Middle East nervous. Not only that, but they're dictatorships. Now, Iraq is not. Iraq is a democracy. We built that democracy. We handed that democracy to them. And here's the kicker about that, is that let's say you have these politicians that are in a certain position inside Iraq's government. If that fails, even if they're pro-Iran, those people would have never seen those seats. Those people would have never been part of the system. So they're not about to just hand over Iran and that influence and the multipolar world and all that stuff, everything. They might be Shia, religious-wise. They might be part of those tribes and that whole thing, but they're not about to give up that power structure. So both sides will fight for democracy. It's just that, if you look at the United States and you look at other countries, that there's democracies that are a little bit more socialist. Now, people get that confused. All right, so you can have a country that is socialist or more socialist that's not as complete capitalist as the United States. They were voted in from a democratic point of view. Let's leave all the South American and all the the minority countries, the countries of color. Let's leave those alone. Look at Norway. Look at Sweden. Look at Finland. Look at Denmark. Look at all these countries. As wide as you can get, all right, and they vote left. Now, are they socialist dictatorships? No, they're democracies. That's how they put themselves. Yeah, you guys, I'm not defending them. I disagree with them. They're living off our coattails. The United States, a complete capitalist system. Complete opportunist, complete a capitalist system on how to expand your markets. And so, that's what Iraq is looking at. That's what all the people in the Middle East are looking at. That's what the world is looking at as far as world governments go. I know the average person doesn't know this. So what am I talking about here? The United States is promoting democracy. And how do we promote democracy? How do we entice them? We invite them into our markets. All right, so if you look at what China is doing, China keeps saying, well, hey, yeah, no, we are a dictatorship. We think a little bit differently, but look at our markets. Our markets are expanding. Our markets are growing. We're going to take over the planet as far as markets go. Obviously, they were lying to themselves. Obviously, that was an American market. We created that, and the minute we pulled out, they were over with. So they were lying to themselves, on that end. Not only that, but look at Russia. Russia's biggest customers. They're all democracies. So it's so weird because you watch these guys make stupid move after stupid move after stupid move, yet they were winning for years. And so you guys, what caused the USSR to fall? Is when the United States under Ronald Reagan, as we started fighting back. And what did we do? We didn't need to use conspiracy theories or anything like that. We just started taking over. We would not let the USSR expand anymore. Grenada, even Afghanistan, even under Jimmy Carter. It actually, all those things destroyed the USSR. Well, that's what's happening with Russia right now, is that they were expanding their influence, and they got stuck. They got stopped in Ukraine. They overplayed their hand. They got too cocky. It's always happened. Once they get in direct contact or more contact with a country that has more influence, by the United States, and we completely armed Ukraine. The Russians and the Chinese and all these guys get their asses kicked. They literally get their asses handed to them. And people forget this. They don't put that in perspective. So that's specifically what Iraq is looking at. And the reason I'm saying this, that, you know, they were looking at the multipolar world. And there's a consequence if you, right now, there would have been a consequence if you went against them and the multipolar world won. Now, there's not going to be a clear winner where one side controls the world and that's it. There's always going to be something else on the other side. You know, in my courses, I talk about how geopolitics is broken down into 3 different eras. You have, you know, the empire building, the colonial era. You have the Cold War era, and you have the contemporary, which is today, the contemporary era. All right? And the gray zone is when colonialization and empire building in the geopolitical area, when the British invented geopolitics. And it's just because we were aware of the world and where it was at, they put together a geostrategy. And, you know, it had to do with the oceans, the rimland. That's where it all came from. So that's, you know, so what were they doing though, you guys? And this is the key to what Iraq is looking at. They knew where all the people were. They knew where the gateways to all the people were. They knew where all the resources were. And they measured the distribution of power, and then they fought for it, and then they controlled it. The United States version of that is Alfred Thayer Mahan, an admiral from the 1800s. What did he do? He wrote a book on sea power, how to control the oceans, how all these powers became powerful because they owned the gateways to their enemies through the oceans. Teddy Roosevelt was a huge component and fan of that. And so what did he do? He went to war with Spain, took away the Philippines, took away Cuba, completely destroyed the Spanish Navy, and we took over their empire. We took over their gateways to their empire. We had access to those resources. We had access to those people. And that was the beginning, the Republican beginning of what you and I are involved today. Had nothing to do with the Democrats, had nothing to do with the neo-isolationists, the Ronald Reagan Republicans, the Nixon Republicans, these guys that, you know, that's what that's the cloth that they were cut from, was our empire. And it was under those presidents that it was created, and it was under those presidents that it was designed, and that's what we're maintaining. All right? So, but again, so how do you know, what did we do? What did we go after? We went after areas that had manpower and resources or access to them. All the way up to World War II. And so you saw the shift in power from a global perspective because they went broke. They simply went broke. All right? I hate to break it to you guys from India. You didn't beat England in anything. I mean, you guys, you're lying to yourselves. England went broke. That's what happened. Gandhi was it was because of a power vacuum. I don't give a shit how much it offends you, that because they put this guy on a pedestal. England went broke. That's how that happened. Also, the United States, we gained gateways to all of our enemies and our markets. This is because England went broke. And also Germany went broke. And also Russia went broke. And also Japan went broke. All right? So, so we literally gained every access to everybody through the rimland. But it was under democracy. It was under, that's how if you look at our major foreign policy on how the United States, how we do everything, the Marshall Plan, the Monroe Doctrine, but it all has to do with our democracy. So if you look at propaganda today from Russia and China, what do? They're attacking that. Anything that has to do with international business, it's very strange. If it comes from the United States, it's a bunch of pedophiles. If it comes from Russia and China, they could be in the same market. They could be after the exact same crowd and selling the exact same product, but all of a sudden it's benevolent. It's under the crown of Jesus Christ himself, even though none of these guys believe in Jesus Christ. All they have to do is say it, and people believe it. It's the weirdest thing. Proof in the pudding, you guys. All you have to do is go back and look, even Iraq. It doesn't matter. The last 2 times we've taken over Iraq, we went after Afghanistan. We were always fighting dictatorships. Dictatorships are competing with the United States, whether it's one dictatorship or a combination or whatever, on control of the gateways to the populations and to resources. Very simple. Forget about the philosophical, Islam, Christianity, whatever. It's all out the window. It all goes out the window. They're all fighting for the same thing in the end. They're not fighting over the Sahara Desert, all right? They're fighting over areas that have land and, that where you can go farming and resources, and that's it. So that's, if you look at that in what Iraq is looking at, they're measuring this just like everybody else. They're not stupid. All right, so why were they sitting on that fence? Is it just because I told you? Because Russia won in Chechnya, they won in Georgia, they won in Syria, they won in the first war in Ukraine. Made them nervous, so they didn't know what to do. So they sat on the fence. And you guys, even though what I'm saying, I'm throwing out there, there's a lot of information. It is that easy. So the problem is I've actually tried to explain this through emails and phone call conversations with people in the private sector, and they get twisted and balled up is because, well, they don't like the president who's the president right now. So what the hell does that have to do with the price? Well, it's like a dictatorship because the election was stolen, and hey, Republicans have stolen elections. If you don't think that's not hasn't happened, you're a fool. One of my all-time favorite presidents, Theodore Roosevelt. What did he do? He supported Taft. McKinley. Roosevelt was vice president. McKinley was president. He got assassinated. Theodore Roosevelt became president. Theodore Roosevelt got in a war with Spain, created the American Empire. He steps aside, supports Taft. Taft becomes, he basically lied, and next thing you know, when he's in power, he's an isolationist. So what happened is Theodore Roosevelt comes back, creates the Bull Moose Party, and peels off enough votes to where Wilson wins. It's like, oh, I don't like Wilson. Well, Wilson was an isolationist. That's why they were able to do that. That's why if you look at the Republicans, it's like, why the hell would they get rid of Taft, who's a Republican, put Wilson in there because he's a progressive? Because the Republicans don't care. What it was is it had to do with our markets. They're more market-driven than they are ideology, and this is what I'm trying to hammer home to you guys. The most important, you can be religious and ideological. I'm a traditionalist. I can't stand the media. I can't stand, all this, the breakdown of the family. I can't stand any of it. So it's kind of weird to explain to people, it's like, well, your politics, you're a neoconservative, and all these websites out there, it's all anti-neoconservative. Well, you know why it's anti-neoconservative? It's because these websites are pro-Russia. These websites are pro-China. And who created the American Empire? Neoconservatives. So you guys, off-the-wall stuff, all right? Stuff about, we're neoconservatives. Okay, somebody wrote a book. They're actually communist, and they, it's all shit. It's for stupid people. And there's plenty of them out there. They buy it all.
Tony, just real quick here. One of the examples, this is, for me, it's most fascinating. You have been espousing it's all about expansion for markets. So what's the first thing that happens to Russia when they initiate this invasion going into Ukraine? They get all these sanctions. Why? What do the sanctions do? They close down the markets. Without the markets, they don't have cash flow. And they keep getting more and more and more sanctions applied, and these sanctions become tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And all we're doing is cutting off their markets. And that's it. That's all that's happening is these are just cutting off their markets. So if you take a look at the expansionism that we went through, what was it for? To gain markets. Exactly that. And it makes it so much easier when you begin to look at the reverse side of it. What happens when you lose those markets? You know, it's kind of interesting because Russia is in an interesting position. I think China is even in a more interesting position. I finally saw on the news today, I mean, we've been talking about it for a long, long time, but the reverse in their population has become a really big issue, along obviously with the sanctions and the determination to pull back those high-level chips that are available. But just take a look at what's happening there. I mean, what's it doing? It's markets. It's markets, it's markets, it's markets. I'm beginning to sound like Tony. I should say cheese stick more often. All right. All yours, bro.
No, it's Bob. It's a beautiful point, all right, because Iraq doesn't want to be cut off from any markets. So they're sitting in the middle of the fence. If they would have supported China and Russia, they'd have been cut off from the markets after this Ukraine fiasco. Somehow that it would have been sanctioned. It's like you guys, think about Iran. Iran, because it's attached to Russia and China, the multipolar world, they're suffering market-wise. And that's what Iraq didn't want to do. They have support from Iran, and they have influence from Iran, but they were trying their best to stay right on that fence so they don't get in trouble because they weren't too sure who was going to win. Now, here's what their thoughts were. If the United States gets involved, the United States will win. Nobody's going to stop the United States from winning. I don't care who the president is. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. The United States is going to win. But the question is how involved are they going to get in? Well, that's what happened in Ukraine. We found out. We're completely destroying Russia. Russia will never recoup. Even if Russia takes over Ukraine, they'll never recoup. All right? Here's something also interesting, Bob, an extension from our conversation last night. There's all these quotes back in the day of how you have Putin talking about how, great NATO is. They might even want to join NATO. And he was all pro-markets. He wanted to expand Russian markets. He even wanted to join the EU. And then all of a sudden he took a big turn. And that's when you saw the Shanghai corporation and all that stuff, and they started down the road going down. They're creating their version of the IMF. They're creating their version of the World Bank. They're creating their version of the Trilateral Commission. They're creating their version of the Bilderberg Group. They're creating their version of, you name it, right on down the road. That's what it was all about. That's what that meeting was all about. It was about dictators getting together and building the same type of infrastructure that the democratized world works on, that foundation. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, the amplification of all these conspiracy theories about the West and our institutions. You guys, all of our institutions are for one thing and for one thing only, expanding markets. The dollar wouldn't be worth the dollar what it is today without any of that. And yet, you got people out there just shooting our mouths off. So the reason people are confused, why am I saying that? It's like, okay, Tony, you're kind of going on a rant. No, I'm not. I'm explaining this one more time to you guys because you keep attacking the foundations and the institutions that expand our markets. They were created to expand our markets, and they did. More than a half of the world's population is out of poverty because of those institutions. It's not because of those shitheads in China. It's not because of Russia. It's not because of Iran or anything combination like that. It is Pax Americana. It is those institutions that you attack every day, or you listen to people that attack them every day. That's why it's confusing for people because it's like, oh my God, the evil institutions, and it's like, well, okay, well then how do we expand our markets? All of a sudden, there's a big blank there, a big question mark. Each one of those institutions has a very specific design to it. The IMF was designed to create loans and opportunity for the gray area. So you had the United States was democracy, you had Russia or the USSR, which was a dictatorship. What about the gray area? And the IMF, what we did is through the IMF is we gave these areas, these countries, these gray areas loans if they joined the democratic side of it. And it's very simple. That's it. Had nothing to do with Satan. Had nothing to do with cloaks and daggers. Had nothing. Same thing with the World Bank. The World Bank had to do with that system on if you're part of the democracy. Hey, yeah, we can give you loans. We can help you develop. That's what we do. We invest. We develop. And you guys, that's where the world literally, for the first time in history, with all the religions and all the campaigns and all, for the first time in history, more than half of the world is out of poverty, and it's because of that system. That's why they call it Pax Americana. Google it. Google it. It means something. So that's what Iraq is looking at. Iraq was scared because they didn't know if the Pax Americana side, the market side, because it takes a long time for the United States to react. And there's a very good reason for that. Well, that's a different audio. When we do, we destroy everybody. And just like Bob said, how do we destroy everybody? We separate them from the markets. You guys see that there's a point here. It is about the markets. That's what it is. So that's why Iraq has been sitting on the fence. Now, let me read this article real quick. I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead. And then because I'm pulling this article up. Go ahead.
So you're online because I think I'm going to bring up next is inflation, because I get a lot of questions about inflation and how the war is affecting us here and these new changes that are about to come into place with the new relationships we've got with other countries. How is it affecting our inflation? And we'll get to that in a minute. Go ahead and cover what you got there.
Sure. So, there's an article that came out that you guys are sending. It says, Iraq Prime Minister supports indefinite U.S. troop presence. In an interview, Mohammed al-Sadani says foreign forces are still needed to fight the Islamic State. Well, that's a very good pitch, but the reality is that because of Ukraine, it's very clear to Iraq who's going to win this market fight, this fight for the markets. So the Russians call it the last war of the world island. That's what they call it. We call it something a little bit different. It's called the battle for the Rimland, ladies and gentlemen, because that's where the markets are. That's where the keys to all the markets are. It's in the Rimland. Always has been and always will be. And we control it because of our navies. And not only that, we don't even need the size of the navies. They'll always be big. We don't even need that anymore because we've taken over a new geopolitical space called outer space. Nobody has it. We're the only ones that have it. We're the only ones that have it, ladies and gentlemen. So before I get into inflation, I want to tell you guys one more time, a little bit of reflection from the last audio that we did. Because I get weird, you guys, I get weird emails and links to weird stuff, all right? United States or the people who own these companies, including Elon Musk, are not on the cusp in any way, shape, or form of creating computer chips that you can put in the brain that will control you and how you vote. And if you don't vote the way that the global order, then they're going to shut you off because they own those chips. It is all psychobabble, batshit crazy, like I talked about the last audio, where you will suffer in your imagination more than you will in reality. Stop, you guys. That has nothing to do with investing in Iraq. Has nothing to do with our economy. None of that stuff is coming down the road. They're not on the cusp of any of this stuff. Not only that, there's no book written on how that's going to happen and how they're going to do it, which is what these conspiracy theorists throw out there. None of that stuff exists. You couldn't point it out to me if your life depended on it. I'm an expert at finding that stuff. I did this for money for corporations. Hey, this is being set out there. Can you find that out? Can you, where are they getting this? Nothing. Zip. Somebody will take somebody that something wrote in a book of fiction. It's a story they made up. And they say, well, what he's really saying, it's like, he's not really saying anything. It's a book of fiction. Well, his cousin was in eugenics, and it's all garbage, 100% garbage. So that's the problem. People are afraid of stuff that's not about to happen. It's not going to happen. Now, he's going to put a computer chip in your brain. Well, what about Elon Musk? What about Elon Musk? Just like I said, nobody's about to put a chip in your brain and shut you off if you don't vote the way you guys. It's so stupid. But I got to tell you, I get emails, people arguing it, saying, "No, hey, So if you want to understand what's going on with Iraq, going back to the question, let me read that question again. Tony, you're looking at Iraq and you keep talking about how Iraq is looking at the other side. It's dictatorships. It's the multipolar world versus democracy. I don't know what that means. In the past, in my mind, you're master at the bigger picture and formulating a view, as you called it. Can you please help me understand? And that's it, you guys. That's what everybody in the Middle East, that's what everybody in the gray zones. The gray zone is in between democracy and in between dictatorships. That's what that gray zone means. Some of them think that China and Russia is going to win. Nobody thinks that anymore. But they were afraid because they didn't want to be cut from the markets. And lo and behold, next thing you know, Iraq Prime Minister support indefinite U.S. troops in Iraq. It's a completely different tune when Russia was on that march to try to expand their markets and winning a war in Chechnya, winning a war in Georgia, winning a war in Ukraine already. They took over Crimea. Nobody even fired a shot at them. It was retarded. And Syria, they just completely destroyed, just completely bombarded cities. Everybody, every kid, every living, every bird, every ant, everything, just killed everything. They won that war. So, I could see why Iraq would be concerned and hesitant to get off that fence. So that's what it was all about. Very easy, right? All the rest of the stuff that the people throw in the mix does not count. All right? Brain chips, you guys, don't count. You don't need to bring that conversation. It sounds nuts, right? But I'm only responding. And God knows, Bob knows, this is what, how we have to construct some of our answers because that's what we're getting. Guys, it's not a reality. All right? You might not like I don't like the president we have right now. We're still a democracy. Republicans just took over the House. I don't know if you know this, but the House is the most powerful seat of all of America. The power is in McCarthy's hands right now. He could tell, so there's an article out there talking about how, Biden's about to get rid of all the guns. Yeah, great article. Hallelujah, praise Jesus. How's he going to do that when the entire Congress is controlled by Republicans and Republican committees? That kind of ends the fear in that article, doesn't it? You can't use, but people don't know that. They don't think like that. Like, oh my God, somebody's going to take away my guns. They don't think. So, guys, it's that easy. It is that easy. And you go state by state. Even if they did pass a law at the federal level to get run, they can't get past state law because each state has their own constitution. The federal law in the government does not have influence over the state law in Arizona. And that's how it works. It's broken down like that. You can't get rid of our guns. It's going to be impossible. But people just don't think from I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because I've been doing this my whole life or trained, but people compartmentalize themselves, and you don't need to do that. You guys, the markets are going to expand, and we'll talk. I don't know if Bob wants to talk a little bit about it, about AI and all that stuff, but our markets are about to explode. All right, the world markets are about to explode, and there's a war for it. It's the information war. It has to do with 5G, has to do with access to the internet, has to do with the new type of products that are out there. Massive potential, game changer for all of us. And then cold fusion. I guess we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we can. Cold fusion too. It's going to be. I've had the blessing of talking to so many people recently, particularly those that are in my age group, where we take a look at it and say, holy crap, look at what's going on now. And these things that are fantasies from science fiction, just like cell phones were or anything else, it's all coming to fruition. Cold fusion's coming to fruition. Artificial intelligence is coming to fruition. And for a lot of people, that's scary. It's the same thing as the Ukraine-Russian war. People are afraid of it. It's a third world war. What they don't realize is that the possibility of having a nuclear war is next to none. Okay? Truly. It really is. It's next to none. Simply because Putin knows if he steps in that direction that, he's done.
He gets shut off. He gets shut off from the world. Yeah, they get shut off from the world. There goes.
He's finished.
There goes the whole idea of taking over those territories to expand their markets, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be over.
Yeah.
So no, don't have to be afraid of that. And we take a look at inflation, and some people are screaming about what's going to happen. We're going to have products not coming from China anymore. We've got products, production's going out into Mexico. We've got a lot of different changes that are going on. I know that Tony's talked about the new relationships that have been, struck in the last little while that moves us away from the globalization that was really brought into power under the first Bush, to another separation. And it's a closure of these dictatorships by simply applying sanctions. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. So let me. So I want to be very clear on that. The PG2 and how you took the top 7 countries outside of China and Russia to G7, and they raised $600 billion to reshore, to take all the Western's factories out of China and put them in different countries. And what countries we're going to put them into is a different agreement. But what you guys don't understand, that was a Republican strategy. All these neoconservatives that the conspiracy theorists and all that stuff, they've got on this bandwagon, and they're the ones who came up with that. And that's the reset. The reset is reorganize the global order without Russia and China, because they're holding everybody hostage. So it's not the global order is going to go away. It's being restructured. And that's the reset. And every cheese dick out there, I had to use that, Bob, because you pointed it out. But
I know.
They're attacking it. Why would they attack? Think about this, guys. For me and you, right? What do you and I want? We want education for our families. We want jobs for our families. We want to be able to have a comfortable life. But what do you think we're restructuring everything for? So you can have that. What type of a person would attack that? If we built this infrastructure from 1945 on up till today, it has been successful. It's been the most financial, successful growth run in the history of all mankind. And we're about to make it more efficient. And you got these guys out there that are preaching conspiracy theories, writing books about the reset. It's not, we don't call it the reset. They call it the reset. We call it reorganizing our markets. That's it. Hey, let's kick out the guys that are holding us hostage. That's it, the guys that are holding us down. And yet it's being attacked. So what's the alternative? There is no alternative. There's nobody. They're not pointing anything out there. They're isolationist. They're neo-isolationist. It's poison. We've had to kick them out of the Republican Party. It was called the John Birch Society. They got infiltrated. They got infiltrated by the KGB. And so anything that was, that would take America out of the markets, hell, the Russians thought that was fantastic. Because guess who's going to take over when we're out of those markets? Yeah, figure it out. There they are today. So you have to understand, that's the power of propaganda. And it comes from a source. There's an aim from it. These guys are genius. All right? It makes me mad because people believe it. That's one thing. But these guys are genius. These guys are beyond smart. These guys who propagate this propaganda coming from Russia and China. They're the best in the world. Like, United States, we don't have that type of thinking. Ours is that when Ronald Reagan started going after the KGB, it's like, look, we need to reintroduce reintroduce democracy and talk about it more and debate on the points democracy versus their dictatorship, and we won. We didn't need to. Basically, what they said is we don't need to come up with conspiracy theories. We tell everybody we want you part of our markets. You should be able to go to the church you want to go to. You should be able to worship the God that you want to worship. Good old-fashioned Ronald Reaganism. And that's what happened. And then, because of our markets and our budget, we were able to beat these guys. There's a combination of things. But people forget. William F. Buckley and these guys, when they kicked up the John Birch Society, Ronald Reagan and all these guys were 100% for it. Yeah, no, get these clowns out of here. Get these isolationist noobs out of here. These guys are nuts. Because in the end, there might be religious principles, there might be this or that, but in the end, they're closing our markets. They're closing the gates and the to our markets. They're closing the institutions that help expand our markets. It also helps propagate what our enemies are saying. Well, the IMF, it's ran by Lucifer himself. It helps propagate that. And so that's what I'm fighting against. When I talk to you about this stuff, or tell me what's your political, I'm trying to get rid of these guys who are trying to hurt the country and close our markets down. You guys are not going to win. It's not going to happen. I don't even have to be around for them. People get it. After a while, people get it. People just get it. So it's a beautiful thing. But real quick, you guys, the only thing that you have to fear is, from a policy point of view, is measure how's the United States going to cut off market-wise. All right? So with the Bretton Woods system and the Trilateral Commission and that system, we're changing that. And we had access and control to 25% of the world's GDP. With this new system that we're putting in place right now, we have access to 40 to 60%. All right? A game changer. And the people that were blocking us and cheating out, the entire West, they've been cut out. How is that a bad thing? It's not. Once you hear the truth and how this stuff works, every war we've ever gone against, every war that we've ever fought has to do with against a dictatorship. Every single one. And we've always expanded our markets, and we're about to expand our markets even more. Where is all the negativity coming from? Just think about it, all right? But that's what Iraq sees. That's everything I just told you is exactly what they measure, the distribution of power. It's classic geopolitics. The strategy on gaining power and then the observation of who's gaining power. And the United States or the West is gaining more and more power. We're getting more and more access to the markets. And it's that simple, you guys. People are overthinking it. People have been brainwashed. I was brainwashed when I was young, so it's not like everybody somehow, you come to that path to where you learn the truth, and the stuff doesn't apply. The propaganda doesn't apply. But you guys, real quick, and then I'll have, because I know Bob has a couple of questions.
Yeah, I've got not only some questions. We've got a couple of things that I think are really vital that we need to jump into. I'm going to do it now, Tony. Just hang in there for a little bit with me, okay?
Sure. Go ahead, Bob.
The thing that you just got through saying, I don't know if people are catching the big drift of it. There's a huge change that's in the air. Things are going to change. The markets are going to become larger. The opportunities are going to become larger. Now, just a real brief comment. I don't want to jump into this because we could spend hours on it. But for most of you, if you may have heard something about AI being available now through something called ChatGPT, yes, this is what the future is beginning to look like. It's moving in a direction where there's going to be more automation and more availability to be able to do more things. Now, I'm going to share something with you that I want you to just to be aware of, okay? The opportunities to be able to expand your world, to be able to do more right now, has never been at a better spot. I could tell you from a long time ago, and Tony's talked about all the different presidents and all the changes in the markets, all kinds of stuff. Guys, there's never been an opportunity like we have sitting right in front of us right now in the able to expand not just what the world is seeing, but what your world is and what you can do. And it's something that I have believed in my whole entire life, that being a self-employed and being an entrepreneur is where true expression comes from. The expansion of ideas, the fact that you're taking care of yourself, your family, your support in the community, the things that you can accomplish. But right now, that door is opening even bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so for the last several months, almost half a year, I have been working on how do we take this and make it available to everybody so that they can see the possibilities of having more. Now, I've been singing at you now for 7 years about the IQD. I believe it's going to come to fruition. Tony believes it's going to come to fruition, okay? There's no change in that. The only thing is that when, we don't know. And you heard me not too long ago talk about putting this into a shoebox. Get everything done. Get it done. What needs to be done so that when it comes to fruition, it's ready to go, and you're set. And there's going to be so many people that are not going to be ready. And when that comes, they're going to be afraid. And they're going to make mistakes. And they're going to lose money. Or even worse than that, they lose it all. They lose everything. And that's the thing that Tony's been pushing, I've been pushing. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just get ready. Just keep going. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. And so lately, there's something out here that's called this ChatGPT that's out there, which is really revolutionizing everything, particularly in the business world. And so I have been spending a lot of time investigating, working with that, creating with it, and it is, without a doubt, one of the most exciting things I've ever done. Now, I'm 71 years old. Now, most people think at 70 years old, oh, yeah, I'm going to sit back in the rocking chair, go back and watch Lawrence Welk till I want to puke. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I'm much more interested in being able to participate in something that is exciting, that's going to be profitable, that's going to be doing something more with my life than just sitting back and waiting for the inevitable death that's coming around the corner. I want more, and I want you to have more, which is what Tony and I have been saying all this time together. We have been saying that. Now, for the last quite a while, I have been really working on, in conjunction with other people, creating something that I can present to everyone and say, here's how this works. Without fail, this is how it works. And all you have to do is understand the key of opening up your possibilities, your desires, your dreams, your skills, and be able to put them to work and create revenue, serious revenue, enough that you could expand your whole world while we're waiting for this IQD to come to fruition. There's no reason to wait and twiddle our thumbs, rocking the rocking chairs, okay? There's no reason to, especially when you can go do something very inexpensively and create something that you've always wanted to do and didn't even know you wanted to do. So I'm announcing here that I'm going to personally invite you. You're going to get an email here after we get through with our presentation tonight. Invite you to attend a presentation that's going to be next Thursday. I'm going to show you this stuff, okay? I'm going to show you what it is, how it works, how it can work for you inexpensively, and be involved in something that's on the crest of all this new stuff that's coming down the road. This artificial intelligence that's being proposed and given, by the way, it came to Elon Musk, is changing everything. It is changing everything. And I want to show it to you. I want to show you how you can use it. I want to show you how you can expand the possibilities of what you can do and do more with it. So instead of being afraid, which is what I have so many emails that come at me, questions, and people that are saying, well, what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and what about this? You don't need to be afraid of what's going on in the future, guys. It's all heading in another direction that's going to be an expansion that's going to be, I've known Tony a long time. I say it's a long time. It's only been like, 7, 8 years, something along that line. But I remember very clearly when we had our conversations, and he kept saying all the time that the world is going to quadruple in the amount of money that's going to be available for people. And I kept looking at, well, how? Everybody thinks that there's a limited amount of whatever's going to be there. No, you keep generating it. If you take a look at the world of cryptocurrencies, which I realize is topsy-turvy at the moment, okay, how much money went through that? And people say, well, where did it come from? Well, where does it always come from? It's here. It's always around us. You just don't see it. You don't see it. And so people become afraid. It's just like inflation, which I know I wanted to talk about a little bit, and we'll open that door up here in a few more minutes. But if people are afraid that their whole world's going to collapse, we have the potentiality of a nuclear war, with the potentiality of all these different things. No. Turn your head and look the other direction. Realize there's so many things that have been negotiated, so many changes that are on the table that are all going to be influenced with not only just money, but possibilities. Huge possibilities. And while I look at the IQD and I see, okay, so if it came out at $1, wow, that'd be really great. But what if I could show you that there's other ways to be able to do it and have it be just as successful and have it be fun? Now, on a personal note, and then I'm going to open it up for questions and answers here because we're getting to that point. On a personal note, since I've been involved with this other thing and I'm looking and studying and sharing and preparing, I've never been happier. I mean, I love what we've done with MaxPlans. I really do. I love helping people. I've done that way my whole career, is to be able to help other people. This next thing I want to show you on Thursday or Tuesday of next week, that is a big boost, and I'm just really excited to share it with you. All right, Tony, thank you. I got that off my chest. I know you have some more. Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick on you guys. You need to write this down. Let Bob introduce it to you, because I've been around business-wise, a lot of opportunity. All right, the people that I hang out with, they don't see the world in a negative light at all. There's a reason they're investing. There's a reason. I mean, think about it. Russia, if they thought the world was coming to an end, if they thought that was happening, why would they try to take over all the resources out of Ukraine? It doesn't make any sense, does it? If China thought there was World War III coming along, why would they want to take over Taiwan and create the Belt Road Initiative? Everybody at the top thinks completely opposite than everybody at the bottom. And that's why the bottom stays the bottom, because they don't invest. That's it. That's the secret. That's it. Don't overthink it. Don't start pulling up religious script and all that stuff and all this and that and it. Nope. There's a reason people have money, and there's also a reason people do have money. And it's because they invest, all right? But I'm saying that to say this. What Bob is talking about, open chat, this artificial intelligence, out of all the stuff that I've done, all the stuff that I've looked at, you guys, I talk about geopolitics to corporations so they have an advantage. They have an insight what's going on, and it's eureka. They have religious experience going, oh my God, I've never seen anything like it, and it's at the very beginning of it. So you gotta hook up with Bob and these guys and just take a look at it. Let them introduce it to you. It'll blow your mind. I'm not kidding. It's completely changed me. Bob knows this. We've had conversations about it.
Yeah, and the
completely
fun part
changed me.
Yeah, the fun part is I introduced it to him. Yay! I won one.
Yeah. No, it's look, I knew it was coming out there. I knew all that stuff, but I didn't know it did the things that it did. All right, I just didn't know. I didn't, which is like everybody else. But it's going to get even better. Like Bob said, Elon Musk is the one who created this one, but Google has their version of it, and these other companies have their version. They're going to compete, and so the AI is going to get smarter and smarter and smarter.
You know,
and
the thing about AI is it's going to be moving into our everyday communication systems. It's already integrated into Gmail. It's already being used for customer support. It's already being used in 100 different ways. Go ahead, Tony.
Bob, I introduced it to one of my family members, and they go through so much legal advice. It's uncanny. It's absolutely uncanny, and they literally, because of chat and its ability to answer questions and stuff like that, they've gotten rid of them. That's how good it is.
Yeah. Yep. It is
just a basic So
amazing.
So it is a game. It is a game changer.
It is totally and absolutely a game changer. So anyway,
so you're going to be talking about that the next audio, right?
Yeah, we're going to do that next Tuesday. We're going to have a special webinar just to talk about it. Okay, and all of you are going to get a link to be able to register for it. I'm looking forward to having you there because there's so much, and it's just fascinating, and the opportunities to be able to get into it and to be able to expand and to extend yourself and to step out of the world and the shadows of I can't into the light of, well, why not? Because it's so easy now. It's so simple now to be able to stand up and create revenue for yourself. It's just amazing. All right. It's time for us, Tony, to jump into the Q&A. So
sure.
I'm going to go there, and we'll get this part going. Okay, folks, just as a reminder, one more time, thank you for being here. We will be recording this. We're recording it even now, and you'll get a link for it later on. Okay, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of things. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, let me throw this out there real quick, you guys.
Sure, go ahead.
The reason the way I talk, you guys, I always bring up conspiracy theories, right? And some of you guys roll your eyes. It's the emails that I'm getting. The emails are coming from people who are watching these sites and then asking dinar questions. So and almost all of you. So that's why I always bring that up. I don't have an outside agenda or anything like that. I'm answering questions the way that people are asking them. And I have conversations with Bob all the time. It's like, this is uncanny. It's like everybody's going to these sites and they intertwine computer chips that are being attached to the brain to the dinar. It's like, and we laugh. Like, how does that happen? But it does. And I'm telling you right now, you need to get away from it. It damages you. It damages you. But anyways, go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
Sometimes we pass these emails back and forth just because you need comic relief in life somewhere along the line. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into this thing, okay? So I'm going to open the floor for questions. You already know how this works. You're going to hit *6 on your phone to unmute yourself. Or if you're using your computer, you will easily just unclick your microphone there, and then pose the question. It's going to either be for Tony or myself. And if you are waiting to get on board, I ask you to please keep quiet. I can see you there. If there's too much background noise, I'm going to cut you off simply because I want to make sure that we have a good, clean recording. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It's just that we want to keep it clean, okay? All right. So after you get answered, please mute yourself, and then we'll step up and we'll go from there. So if we have any overlapping noise, like I said, I'm going to knock it off there. Wow, went too far. All right, let's get this thing going. Dave, I see you jumped on there in a hurry, guy. Go ahead. You go first.
All right. Thanks, Bob. I had a couple of questions about the CRUT that I got from MaxPlans.
Yeah.
Regarding the analysis that goes to the professionals, I assume that's the attorney, the financial planner, and the accountant, correct?
Yeah, whoever you're working with, yes.
Okay, so that looks like that's broken down into two sections. The top section says Charitable Remainder Unitrust, and the other one says Remainder Unitrust.
Yep.
Which one do I give them?
You're going to give them both.
Both?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The applications, the directions on that apply to both of them. So just give them both.
Okay. Okay, very good. The other thing is I noticed that in your step-by-step what to do, you mentioned about going through the process and depositing the IQD into your CRUT and into USD, and then after that conferring with the professionals.
Yep.
Might it be a better idea to just do maybe some of it initially, and then before you do the bulk of it?
Yeah. entirely up to you. See, the problem that we have, I don't mean to interrupt you, Dave, but I want to make sure everybody gets the same message here. The problem that we have, we don't have a date and a rate.
Right.
We don't know. And the whole purpose of getting into this particular investment is to accomplish an objective of some kind. Now, how you're going to go about it, whether you're going to use it in a way that's going to be tax-free, it's going to be tax, reduced, if you're just going to put all of it into a CRUT and then take the funds that come off there at 5% and do it that way, all of that's going to depend upon what the rate is going to be, which we don't know.
Well, I'm not planning on talking to any professionals until after the RV, but I'm just talking.
Absolutely, because they won't talk to you anyway.
Right, yeah. So that's my point. I was just thinking, I've got a substantial amount. And if I do it all at once, it may be better if I did it a little different way, which I would find out after I was speaking with the professionals.
And the other part is, when you start having these conversations with these professionals, you've heard me say, go to 6, go to 6, go to 6. And the whole reasoning behind that is, number one, you're going to get an introduction, okay? And you're going to learn. And then once you have more conversations with them, you're going to be able to understand it. And when you begin to understand it, then you have clarity and you can make a decision. The other part of it is when you talk to 6, not only are you going to pick up the vocabulary and you're going to get the transition of how things work, you're going to pick up on personalities. Who can you trust? Who are you comfortable with? And that's why I've often said to people, don't be in a hurry, okay? A lot of people are not going to do that. I know they're going to jump. I know damn well they're going to jump, okay? But that's just human nature. That's because fear likes to dominate everything in our whole domain. But if you just take the time and do what you're doing, and I agree with you, Dave, you don't have to put it all in there at one shot. It's entirely up to you. You get to decide. You are the master of your own financial domain.
Okay. One last quick question regarding the tax return for the CRUT. Is that a Form 5227?
No, it's a dang it. This is the other part about getting old. Actually, I'm gonna create a tax return for that and put it up on the website so everybody can see it.
Oh, okay.
Yourself. It's real simple.
I thought it would be. All right. I appreciate that very much.
I'll just throw it out there on the website and tell everybody about it. Thanks for reminding me. I've been so busy on this other thing that I'm working on. I hadn't even thought about that. But, yeah, I'll get it out there, and it'll be available for everyone.
Okay, very good. Thanks for answering my questions and for putting on this webinar. I appreciate it.
No problem. Believe me, Tony and I enjoy doing it.
Thank you.
All right. Dan, I see you there.
Hey, partner. Quick question on the CRUT. I've got a decent amount of dinar, and once it comes through, if it's there, I was wanting to set up like a trust for my siblings who are older than I am. If I set them up with a CRUT with the life insurance and had myself as the beneficiary of the life insurance policy, I would be able to recoup that, but it would also be tax-free. Is that correct?
Yeah, but the problem you're going to have if they're older than you is getting the life insurance.
Okay.
That could be a potential issue. Now, one thing you may consider, and I brought it up in the presentation tonight, is the idea of creating a private foundation so that those funds, when they pass on, is going to go to that private foundation, which you can be a part of. You can still be part of that while you're still alive. It won't make any difference. Okay? And those funds would be available for you to use to do and further things along in the way of charitable work, and you would get paid for it.
Right. Now, what's the age limit usually for life insurance? I mean,
I don't think it's so much. Well, it's not always the age; it's the health.
Yeah.
They're gonna run med checks on everybody when they get over particularly 70 years of age.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got 2 over 70, 1 almost there.
Yep.
I was just trying to figure out how to make this thing work and still take care of my family after me.
Yeah, I hear you. This is why I like the private foundation, because the private foundation opens the door for us to be able to continuance of these funds to help our families way after we're gone and maybe way after our kids are gone.
Very good. I appreciate it. Give me something to kick around.
Yep, no problem, Dan. All right, who's next? Martha.
Hey, Bob. How are you? Good. Tony, we've all seen for several weeks now the articles where the value of the dinar against the dollar keeps falling, the fluctuations. What is the reason for that? And does it really matter for what we're looking at?
Yeah, the whole world's currencies are fluctuating because of inflation. So that's all that is. And you don't need to worry about it.
Okay. That's what I thought. There's been, all these, of course, articles, theories, why it's happening. Obviously the people of Iraq, losing value on their currency.
Yeah, let me throw this out there. Even though you didn't ask this, United States, all right, our petroleum situation, what we pull out of the ground. All right, you guys remember a couple months ago where we were about to have a big, huge diesel fuel shortage? Well, what we did, you guys, when we pull enough energy out of the ground to take care of the United States, but what we're doing is we're pulling enough to take out of the ground, and then we're also selling it off to other countries. We stopped selling it off. Once we found out we were going to be low on diesel fuel, we turned those ships around and brought them back to the United States. We don't have a shortage. So just remember, if we're selling to other countries, there's a shortage. If we just keep it within the United States, there's never going to be a shortage for the next 10,000 years. It's not going to happen. Just something to be aware of. I'm not trying to say anything, but there was all this talk about, we're not going to have enough energy, enough fuel. No, that's not true. We have enough production for the United States itself. We don't have enough for the rest of the world. And so, that has an effect on our business for selling oil, for selling energy. Anyways, I'm sorry, Martha.
No, that was my main question, was just about the fluctuation. It's what, $1,600 per $1 today, and it's just.
And here's the other thing. That doesn't mean anything, anyways, because remember, it's it's an artificial rate. It's not a real rate. So it can go up, and it wouldn't mean anything. Until it's a real hard RV, a revaluation, it's not going to mean anything. It is 100% manipulated, and it's manipulated by the note count. So it nothing to see there. You know what I mean? Nothing to even calculate.
So to your point that you made earlier about Iraq's been watching the markets, they've been on the fence. Are they still on the fence, or have they moved?
With that article that came out from the Prime Minister, they're saying that they want U.S. troops indefinitely in Iraq. And before they weren't saying that they wanted them out, but they didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to upset the multipolar world, Russia, Iran, China, and the dictatorship side of the world. They didn't see America making moves to protect the democracy. Remember, when Trump was in office, there was a lot of talk about NATO being broken up. I don't think it would have ever happened. There was a lot of fear mongering and stuff, and everybody's like, oh my God, that's the biggest military bloc in the world. That's the most powerful entity in the world is NATO, and that's about to come apart. That's not good. So it scared these countries in the Middle East, and all that is out the window. NATO's expanding. Russia's shrinking. China's shrinking. And so now Iraq has confidence in what side they're looking at. And that's a bold statement for them to say that they want U.S. troops indefinitely in Iraq. That's massive, massive information, or a step, just a month ago compared to what they were thinking.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Who's next?
Quick question for Tony.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Hey, a couple years back, you talked about how they probably mistakenly put out information on the note count. Have they done anything like that since?
Nope, they've locked it. There's not one peep, not one iota, nothing. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
I know, but I like
it's kind of strange. I know. So do I. and it helped. You know what I mean? It you know, even with the people that I hung out that were in politics, all right, I got out of it. Still in politics. You know, they all had dinar and stuff like that, and they were talking about specific. Here's the thing, and if anybody can help me on this. Now, the CBI used to have a page where it had different interviews and different information, and one of them was from the ex-general who actually issued the new currency. And on that page on the CBI, it talked about that, you know, they want to get the Iraqi dinar to $3.25, and the last time it was at that rate, they had about 4 billion notes out. And it was on that page, and that page does not exist anymore. If anybody has a screenshot or can get a hold of that or has a printout, I have it. It's just I have so much information, I have no clue where it's at. Like, not even an idea. But remember, that was all true. That, you know, that was what they were talking about. They were talking about Petraeus. General Petraeus talked about how that the popularity of the Iraqi dinar was going through the roof, so they printed more of it to keep it down. You know, all that stuff. So it's all in the mix. I still have those documents somewhere. I know where those are. But that one interview with the general that put it out there, it was actually on the CBI site. So if any of you guys out there printed it out for yourself or whatever, I'd love to get a hold of that. I don't know, maybe Bob has that. I don't know.
No, I've been looking. I couldn't find it either.
Yeah, they took it off. And by the way, they didn't take that specific thing off. That whole page is gone. Doesn't exist anymore. So, and I know I took a screenshot, and I know I printed it out, but I mean, I have no clue where it's at. But that's why that was important, was because of that conversation with that general, and the CBI kept talking about how they're reducing the note count, and you know, I learned about all that, and then so no new information, no new information.
All right. Anybody else?
We're here, you guys. Any questions you want, feel free. Don't be shy.
Can you hear me, Bob?
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
Okay. I'm a sea captain. I've been out of the country for about 9 months, so I'm kind of way behind. What's going on with Worka? Did we lose all our money?
Oh, no. Worka, if there was the only word I can use for Worka is hibernation. Okay? They have their main office in downtown Baghdad. I can see it. I've gone through all of the pictures. Yeah. I go through Google Earth. It's there. It's got its name on the door. Okay? And everything I can find out about them is simply that they have pulled everything back. They have a massive amount of real estate that they owned, because that's essentially what they were involved with. And they're in a holding pattern. Everything is still there. It's just they're in a holding pattern. What's going to get them out of it? I don't know the answer to that one. But if they had shut the doors completely and they were gone, that would be another story. And if I found that out, I'd tell everybody. But at this point in time, the best that I could find out is that they're just kind of holding back. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, I thought maybe they were under the auspices of the central bank, because they'd pull another bank back sometime in the future, but they opened them back up again, I think. I can't remember what the name of the bank was, but yeah.
No, they're under stewardship from the CBI. All right, but the problem is that if you're in Iraq, there's no problem. If you're outside of Iraq, it's a problem. Not that it's gone. We can't get it, but it's not there. It's none of it's missing. It's all insured. Okay. It's there. So and we don't know the technical answer on how to get our, because remember when we had to put to put funds in Iraq, we had to get the signature from Hillary Clinton and go through the State Department and all that stupid stuff. All right. Yeah, that chain has been broken because of the CBI, and that's specifically what it is. And so, how do we get our money out? If you can get to Iraq, or you can go to, if you've got enough in there, you can go to Dubai or something like that and get it out, because there's branches that work with the CBI, or not the CBI, but work.
Yeah, there's also one in Jordan too.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen until after the RV, and maybe even a few months even after the RV.
Yeah.
Get stuff. Yeah, I was over there in 03, 04, and 06. And I purchased all my dinar, in country there in 04.
So let me tell you this, from the information I got, all right? There's no mechanism for them to get into your account and take your money out. The CBI controls it.
Yeah, that's good.
There is no mechanism. There is nobody just going willy-nilly in a bank. This isn't cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
it's an official bank. Yeah.
I appreciate the intel. I was afraid to ask the question because I figured it's gone or it's been gone for a long time. So I've been, like I said, been out of the country and out of touch. But
no, you should be good.
I'm definitely going to have to travel over there, I think, and probably other people as well if they want to get their money out.
Hey, go over there, get your money, find a wife or something like that. You can turn it into a big trip where you can benefit all the way around. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of opportunity there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Is maybe rolling it over to their. Oh God. But thank you guys for all you've been doing for all these years. I've been listening to Tony, to you for a number of years. There have been times.
Thank you.
In Honduras, I'm sitting on the porch over there. I'm thinking, man, everything's falling to shit. So I'm listening to you and say, oh, don't worry about it, man. We got this. China's not going to kick our ass and all this kind of stuff.
Nobody believed that Russia was going to attack Ukraine. Been talking about it for 27 years.
Wow.
27 years. And why? Because they wrote it in a book and they said exactly what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. So, if they hit every mark, there's no reason to not to doubt them, right?
Yeah, well, I took that geopolitical, the first one that you put out. I don't know if you did a second or not, but the very first one you put out years ago, I took that course from you. That was really
the video course?
You
talking about the video course?
Yeah, it must have been video. Yeah, because I took notes.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, you had all the maps and everything. Yeah, that was That was a big eye opener, for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. That same course is missing information, but that same course I would teach to guys that were getting out of the military. We're talking officers here, all right? We're not talking about, somebody who and they would like, I'd put more information out there. It would literally have, I'd talk about authority. And they would have religious experiences like, oh my God. And they knew it. They knew in their heart of hearts, like, this is how it's all working. There is no conspiracy. This is it. I'm like, you betcha. That's exactly it.
Yeah, it's in black and white,
so,
pretty much. I mean,
you
had to put it together, and you did it very well. It's like.
Well, I appreciate that. It's everything that I put in there has to be able to be proven in a court of law. Every shred of it.
Yep.
So that's what that's always been my claim to fame.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Hey, Tony.
I see your name popping there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tony.
Good evening.
All of that, you were first. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, dear. I'm calling because I was with Tony for quite a while. And because of Tony, well, I'm actually going to make a remark for both of you. But first and foremost, giving honor to whom is due, Tony, background in law as well as education and communications. So everything you speak about, whether it's propaganda, the origins, and how it relates geopolitically, I've always thought that way. Even before getting on your coattail, you used to make me laugh because I have worked with the best of the best of the brightest, and I always listened to you when I first got into this, which is why I am a Walker Bank holder as well as the ISX when I bought your report. And so you always told it like it was. You never put yourself in a box, so you didn't have to think outside the box. And so that's why I used to laugh. I used to cringe when you used to curse. I used to cringe when you had the English. But, my God, you still are who you are. And it's I wasn't going to say anything until I heard that last gentleman speak. And I said, I got to give Tony this. Don't worry about the hibernation because with respect to, my background, Walker had went into receivership. And that's the same thing like you're
Correct.
talking about. They have not changed. Every now and then, you always get that from Mr. Muhammad, right? He would say,
right.
Thank you for dealing with Issa Muhammad. We're dealing with our fine bank. I don't care if it was every 5 years, every 10 months, you will get it. They don't miss a beat.
Right.
And people do that when they want to take over your entity. And they were supposed to be taken over by the Standard Chartered Bank before they shut down to the rest of the world. Now, they didn't shut down to the rest of the world, just like you just shared with the gentleman. They are located all throughout the Middle East, including London, Jordan. So I never worked because I was, when I bought the report, and by the way, I still get that ISX report. So just so people know, then they're just like you said, not in hibernation, only hibernation on this part of the earth. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So when
exactly.
Resume,
that's exactly it.
I'm ready to pounce on it because I know I still, and like we said, our Creator was good to me. When I got to that point of putting it in the two accounts, which what you was alluding to, you had to have an IQD account. You also had to do a USD account. That's correct.
Yeah.
I never got a bank unless you had a bank account with them. 3 times I tried to put funds in both, and I couldn't do it here for whatever reason. But Wells Fargo gave me my money back. Citibank just said, "Oh no, you got to be a client." So the bottom line is that I was saved from that. But the fact is the account itself is intact and still exists, and I know that because I get the communications whenever they allow to communicate. So you told the gentleman exactly right. There is nothing wrong. They were the only bank that dealt with international individual, quote-unquote, clients.
Right.
That's
right.
why
That's
we
exactly
did
it.
That's right. So
That's
I
exactly
thank you for all of that, and I'm looking forward to working with you and Bob, which is where Bob comes in, with the AI. Crypto had its place, but, regulatory, agencies have their place, too. And so unless you're in with one of the 2,000 plus, I remember when North America was supposed to have our Fed coin, remember? So the bottom line is, it isn't a game, but it is a game. You really do have to have your mind refreshed, and you have to move with certain people who are dynamic. And I really thank you for that, Tony. And I thank Bob, too, because I have been on some seminars. I will get back to Bob because I wanted to know the minimum threshold that I could start doing what the MaxPlans program in and of itself, as well as the new Endeavor, the AI. So that takes
you'll love that. You're going to love that.
Next stage.
Yeah.
Oh, I know I am, because I'm already excited. I don't have to know. The Creator gives us an innate instinct, and when we're in tune with the creation, the whole world is abundant. Yep. Always have been. It's always been about distribution.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. And so I look forward to working with you guys. I don't want to take over the class, but I got emboldened since I heard that last gentleman.
Well, good for you.
Thank you.
You had the guts to step up. Congratulations, all of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, dear.
you very much.
That's forward movement.
Okay, you'll be in touch. Tony,
I
have to thank you. You always put the personal touch in it, too, because you used to answer me on my telephone and on my email. Okay?
All right.
And you always make me laugh. Which is true. Okay.
All right. Now, Roger, I see
you
you online there, guy. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just wondering for Tony, how do these companies that are all going in there and doing business, how are they getting paid? Are they getting paid through the petrodollar, or are they, if they're going to use the dinar, and are they using the dinar in country now without the dollar?
Yeah. I believe it or not, I don't know if they're using the in-country, if they're using specifically just the dinar. I don't think so. I've never read or that's reported, but everybody's being paid in the U.S. dollar. Everybody internationally is paid in the U.S. dollar. Yeah, I know that for sure.
So then, without reval, then that means that they're building for a lot less money.
Well, that's exactly it. It is a strategy. So two things. We have when Iraq makes money, we hold it in American banks. It's at the Fed in New York, and then we give them the money that they can spend. It's not so yes. When they're selling oil or any international business, it's not going to Iraq and then the Iraqis figure out what's going to happen. It's going to the Feds. It's going to the United States of America, and then we give them their budget. And they, and if you think about it, it's like, well, that's the dumbest thing ever. No, it's security. Because what happens, the United States is protecting their money. So Iran can't come in and take it. Or Saudi Arabia, the other side, can't come in and take it. So it's at the Fed. And Iraq wants it that way. They're being protected. It's a guarantee, right? We guarantee their money for them, and it's just a security mechanism. That's it, nothing more.
So what's their incentive to revalue if they can build a lot less expensive this way?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, any country, Japan, Germany, whatever, they remember the crash of '29. Had to do with you had the English that created the Industrial Revolution. And they're competing against the French. They got into it. They're competing against the Germans. They got into it. And then they got into a currency war because they found out that if you through inflation, that if you devalue your currency, it's the same thing as having a sale. You're paying your employees cheaper. And what happened is as the value went down, it created a crisis. And what did they do? They started buying the U.S. dollar because the dollar was backed by gold because they didn't want to give up their wealth, right? They couldn't make the price smaller. So, it caused a money supply problem in the United States. And so that's why it took us so long to get out of that because we couldn't just print more money because it would have been a fiat currency, right? And so what we had to do is we went to the banks and we told the banks, hey, look, there's plenty of money here. It's just stagnant. And that's when we went to the banks and said, can you put this money out? And they're like, we can't do that. That's not our money. And then we said, we will guarantee it. We will insure it for you. And so that's how we got. But to really fix the crash of '29, we had to fix Europe and get them out of the currency war that they were in. So they'd stop buying our currency and stockpiling our currency and use that as a reserve. So it's an evolution on how we learned how to run our money and how to protect it because of different stuff that's come up. But we've perfected it. And it's so strange to hear people talk poo about the U.S. dollar. It's like there is no currency that you can compare to it. You know what I mean? And
right.
And yeah. So, but Iraq.
So how are they? Yeah.
Go ahead, guy.
So the revalue. Why would they want to make the currency at a higher value? That would it seems as though it hurt them and cost them more.
Well, there's two things. All right, think about this. They want to build a business as cheap as possible. But once they build the business, they want to sell product for as much as possible, right?
Right. Plus
so they can bring profit in. That's all, brother. You don't need to think anything outside of what I just said. They want to build it as cheap as possible, and then they want to make as much profit as possible, and that's why they're going to add value to the currency.
Okay.
That's it. That's all it is.
What would make that turning point where they've actually? How do we know where they've built that business enough? You know, the country enough.
Actually, they're right now.
Oh, they're there right now. Okay.
Oh, they're there right now, but they don't imagine being part of the multipolar world, and we're just shut them off. The BRICS, all their economies. Think of Brazil, Russia, India's okay, but they're not breaking any records or anything like that. They're not becoming rich. You know, the BRICS are stagnant or going broke, and so. You know, that would have been a bad decision. The West was losing. They weren't losing wars, but Russia and China. I'd say Russia. Russia was winning more wars than the United States. That didn't look good, did it?
I see. Mm-hmm.
So
that point of view, that was good. Yeah, about Russia.
Yeah. So a lot of people, you know, my job has always been to do the math and put the hard math behind it. That's why people don't realize that every country we fought is against dictatorships. Every single one of them. We are in the right. I don't care what people says, what we did to the Indians, the slavery, all that stuff, that's gone. We fought against dictatorships. All right? So we're trying to correct the things that had been done wrong in all of humanity. And that's what the push for democracy is all about. Is to correct all that stuff so it never happens again. That's what's so weird, you know. But it takes United States, for a very good reason, should not be quick to react militarily. I think we should react economically, and then through proxy, if it gets to that point, and then go in there and just slaughter everybody if we have to.
Yeah,
because it makes for good YouTube videos. No, just kidding. But
all right. Well, listen, guys, we're bumping on time here. I have somebody. Jeff's been waiting for quite a while to get on board. So, Roger, I apologize for jumping in on you. We need to shut it off here in a little bit.
No problem. Real quick. Was that good enough, Roger? Did I answer your question real quick?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. Good. All right, Jeff, where are you?
Yes. For Tony, I just want to know if they're still on schedule for the 29th of this month to go international.
Who, Iraq?
Yes.
Who said they were going to go international on the 29th?
They did, from articles that I've read.
I don't know if I don't know if any of that's from the Parliament or from the CBI, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if any of that's official. But if they do go international, so here's the thing. If they do go international, that doesn't mean they have to revalue that day.
Right.
So, yeah, so just be aware. That's why I never really paid attention to that. That is not a trigger for them to add value to it.
Okay.
That is not a trigger for. So let me break it down real easy, all right? Just real quick, real easy. Just like I said to Roger, that they're building a business, a place of business for cheap, and then they want to expand their markets and make as much money as possible. So all they have two things they're doing right now. They're still building their business for cheap, and they're trying to expand their markets. So, you know, I with a few friends of mine, we went into China. This is like in 2006. We raised $4 million in like a week for this company. We had the product, all right, and it wasn't a car without wheels. It was a complete product. And then it's like, okay, what do you need the money for? What are we doing here? It's like, well, we need $4 million for marketing. So these countries run their countries just like a business. So if you're going international, that means they're putting out and they're marketing saying, hey, we're open for business. Guess what the next step is, Jeff? Yeah, adding value to the currency.
Yeah, right.
So they built that house, they built that business. Now they're in the marketing stage if they really are going to international. But the they're going to add value to the currency. They're going to do it. Now here's the question. Going back to Roger, what Roger said, very good question though. I don't know, like if we're a guarantor of Iraq's currency, and let's say it's backed by the U.S. dollar that's at the Fed, I don't know if they will ever get rid of that. Why would they get rid of that? We're a guarantor. We're protecting their currency. Nobody can touch their currency. It won't have any say on the value of their currency at all. But if I was Iraq, I would never try to get out from under that system. You might want to add value to your own currency, but you still are attached to the U.S. dollar, and the U.S. is protecting your currency always. It's just a question. You know what I mean? It's just a kind of a thought. But I wouldn't. If I was Iraq, I wouldn't get out of that situation. I would add value to your currency when you need to, because you're building that market. And now that market's built, that now it's time to reap and make money. Bring in all the customers that you can, and then the more people that spend, it creates supply times velocity. The demand for that currency goes up, for whatever price that you set it at, and then it stabilizes that value. And that's how Rock sees it. That's how any business sees it, and that's what they're up to, and that's what's going to happen.
All right, guys, I don't mean to be, but we are quite a bit over our time, and I apologize. Christine, I know you're there. Can you make it real short?
Yeah, I just wanted to know what you were going to tell us about inflation. Thank you.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, just real quick. Go ahead, Tony. But just be mindful, we're way over.
Sure. No, inflation right now has to do with, obviously, the energy prices have changed, right? Some of it's policy, some of it's because of Ukraine, so it's a double whammy. But also you have inflation where it's controlled inflation because we're paying our debt back off cheap. And also we have inflation so we can raise $600 billion and pull our factories out of China for cheap. And so you have that. So it's a very good reason. There's a very good reason for it. Now, if we weren't at war in Ukraine and we weren't pulling out of China, then inflation would have been very bad. You know what I mean? But in the light of things, now that we know that's what's going on, now we know why they're controlling inflation the way that they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but it's nothing. I'm telling you right now. Forget about how these guys write these articles, all right? They're wrong. We're not about to go into a major crash or anything like that. There's always going to be a bubble that bursts, but the market gets bigger the next bubble every single time. Don't worry about that stuff. Listen to me. Do not read those articles, those experts. Go back the last 40 years and read their articles and the stuff they say, how the dollar's going to crash, how the economy's going to crash, and you got to do this. They're always wrong. They're always wrong. They're trying to sell you something. Don't buy into it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Thank you.
All right, guys. We're going to call it a night.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet, Christine. All right, and I'll be sending this out shortly. Tony, thanks again for being here, bro. And we will talk to all of you.
Bob, hit me up when you're done. Thank you.
Yep, I will. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.